I stated earlier, we will be engaging Dr. Ernest Darkwah. He's a psychological, he's actually an organizational and industrial psychologist. And of course, he's also a lecturer at the University of Ghana here in our base. And he will actually help us understand, from a different angle, how the issues of work-life balance is. And he is online with us right about now. Good afternoon, Doctor, and welcome to the Africa Daily Show.
Hello, good afternoon, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us as well. Yeah, so we are trying to look at the conversation surrounding work life balance and some of the psychological effects associated with it. So, for instance, I find myself in a job, yes, and I don't get promoted, or the duration that one gets promoted takes forever. Now, how does such a situation affects one psychologically?
Well, thanks very much. Psychological effects often are not triggered by just one circumstance, and so it depends on a couple of factors
Right,
that will come together to determine how exactly a person may be affected by a situation like that.
right,
And so, for example, in a work environment, every individual has their or they have their own aspirations, they have their own value systems, and they have their own trajectories in this life,
mm,
right? And what is important to them when it comes to their work. And so, when you find yourself in a dead end job, the psychological impacts are going to depend on these facts. So, for example, if you find yourself in a dead end job where you don't get promoted, or the promotion trajectory or the pathway to promotion is not that clear,
right,
again, the question has to do with what you, the employee, what are you expecting? If you're somebody who cherishes and is looking forward
mm,
to progress in that particular job or in that particular occupation or career,
mm,
then the psychological impact are likely to be higher because you are expecting to make some kind of progress in this career, you are expecting to make some kind of progress in this job, especially in organizations where higher positions come with higher emoluments or higher benefits.
right,
On the other hand, people often are in jobs where they don't intentionally or they do not necessarily intend to stay for long. So, for example, somebody might be in a job,
mm,
and a lot of employees would call that job a stepping stone job,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
so they're looking for a better job somewhere. They're looking to get into a career that they are interested in, but for the time being,
mm,
they are doing this just to make ends meet. And
okay,
so people in that situation may not necessarily
mm,
place much value or premium on promotions.
right,
And
right,
so
okay,
when in that situation the promotional pathway is not clear, the psychological impact may be down.
right, right. Great. Let me go back to the first one when you say if you have that, if you're looking for progress, you want that
Yeah,
promotion, you want to better up your life, societal status,
yeah.
and what have you. Now, so what would be some of the effects? What are some of the things that one tend to face, or the problematic issues that comes along with it?
Yes, I mean, if you are somebody who is expecting to progress in this in this job, in this career, you've made this your future, and you need to see some progress.
Right.
Well, the psychological impact.
Okay, I think we just lost Doctor. Was trying to establish connection once again, but the conversation is getting interesting right here. My technical guys would be up, and we can establish contact once again. So the show is still Africa Daily on Africa Global Radio. Yeah, very interesting. I mean, he was on the point where he was about just, zoning in on the effects, actually, the outcome. You're looking for that promotion and it's not coming. It's not, I mean, nothing, there's no clear path. Your boss is not saying anything. You rely on the job. You've been there for so many years, 10 years, 20 years, and nothing. The same position is always the same position. And definitely, I believe, every position at a job place it also comes along with its own, reward and what have you. So if you're there, you want to get that higher pay, it's definitely going to be an issue. But we're trying to find the effects of this kind of situation from Dr. Ernest Darkwah, who is a industrial and organizational psychologist, also a lecturer at the University of Ghana. We're still trying to establish contact with him again so we can continue with the conversation right here. Yeah, I mean, network issues, challenges sometimes, technical difficulties. But yeah, my technical guys are on with it, so we would continue with the conversation. Hello, doctor.
Yeah, please.
Sorry for that technical challenge, but you were on the effects of not having that promotion you're looking to nail at the end of the day.
Yes.
Right.
And so, like I was saying, the psychological impacts may be wide and varied, and they may also be conscious and unconscious.
Right.
And normally, what we are worried about when we do organizational psychology and we do consultations for organizations is actually also the repercussions of the psychological impacts for the organization's own success and effectiveness.
Right.
And so, for example, when you are somebody who is looking forward to make progress and you're not getting, the common psychological effects may be manifested in depression when you go to work or when you think about your work. You might have anxiety on the job,
right?
And you might also have some form of paranoia when you're on the job. You're always thinking or suspecting that somebody doesn't wish you well, or somebody doesn't want your progress.
Start suspecting people, eh?
Yes, and so you might end up suspecting your own colleague who may themselves not be also getting promoted.
Right.
And you might also end up suspecting your bosses of wanting to make the best profit out of you without giving due cognizance to what is due you.
Right.
And these kind of problems, is what can degenerate into major depressive disorders, for example, on the job, or major anxiety disorders on the job, or what we call counterproductive work behaviors. Right. Because once you develop paranoia and once you suspect that there's somebody or there's something that's working against you in that environment, you're likely to identify for yourself what that thing is likely to be, and you're likely to work against it. Right. And so what happens is that people begin to give up on some of the extra miles that they used to go for the organization. People might begin to scale back their efforts that they put in towards productivity or towards helping the organization. And toxic relationships may also begin to develop within the organizational environment.
Right.
And that is not good for an organization.
That is not good. Definitely goes a long way to affect the productivity of the entire organization as well.
Yeah.
Very, very well. Thank you very much, Doc, for clearing that up. But let's also look at a situation where you really get that huge check at the end of the month. Your bank account, I mean, the numbers keeps doubling. But here's a situation. The job you're in is not fulfilling. You wake up in the morning, there is no motivation. Your inner self, there's that absent motivation, but you still want to go to work and get paid because one has to work at the end of the day. How does this issue affect one ability to work and their life balance as well?
Yeah, I mean, in this kind of situation, the effects are more unconscious. You see, because everybody works for money. Like you use the money to take care of yourself, to achieve your basic needs, and take care of your family and everything. So nobody is going to say no to the money that is coming.
Right.
But when the fulfillment that you're looking for is not coming, when there's no motivation, there's no inspiration, there is no inner satisfaction with the job that you do. What people do is that because we are always driven to find inner satisfaction, life satisfaction for ourselves, what people then tend to do is that they cannot let the money go. They cannot let the benefits from this job go, but they also need to achieve or to fulfill that internal satisfaction. And so you realize that the job that pays becomes like a second-rate job. They hold on to that job, but they channel their energy, their cognition, their talent, and their energies into doing something else.
Other
so
activities.
People find themselves, people that find themselves in this situation often have a side job. Okay. And even though they may be calling this thing a side job, actually in reality, the side job is the one that pays them the salary that they have no satisfaction from. And so it's very likely for you to see somebody who says that I'm a politician, but I'm also a farmer.
Yeah.
or I'm a banker, but I'm also a farmer, or I'm
Exactly.
also this, right?
Right.
And usually, if you do investigations carefully, I mean, if you go to organizations, you do find that organizations often confront some challenges with such employees about the sharing of their time between the official work that pays them
Yeah.
and the one that they are calling their side job.
Right. Right.
You realize that people pay more attention to the side job,
Yeah.
especially if it's something that they've started on their own, because that is where the satisfaction is coming from.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yes. And so their creativity goes there. Their thinking goes there. Their talent goes there.
Right.
And then in the job that pays them the fat salary, it's just the routine that goes there. And so you find that these people become obedient employees and not committed employees, because there's a difference between an obedient employee and a committed employee.
Right. Right.
So an obedient employee will obey and follow the work regulations and not go any extra mile. But a committed employee obeys and then goes that extra mile to even try to bring in more work or more activity content to the company.
Absolutely.
And so people who have this who find themselves in this kind of situation often become obedient employees. They come to work, they do what they're supposed to do, but they are counting the time.
Yeah.
They are counting down the hours to move to that other aspect of their life, which is more fulfilling
satisfaction. Exactly. So for one who doesn't have that side job, doesn't have the opportunity to do that side job, clearly it would affect you and possibly affect your life outside work. How do you, manage such a situation?
Well, you see, people are different.
Yeah.
And so people adopt different kind of techniques to try to respond to situations that they find themselves in.
Exactly.
Psychologically, some people may just black out. They just block off that job. Once they've left that job, they once they've closed from the job, they just don't want to hear anything about
have anything to do
or the job or the company anymore. They don't want to have anything to do with it again, because actually it's not something that satisfies them. But you see, the problem here in this situation is the benefits that come from that side of the work.
Exactly.
And so people try two things. One, they try to find some kind of satisfaction, no matter how minute it is, in this particular workplace, because it gives them the money and the benefit that they need to live life.
Right.
And when they try and they can't find, there is what then we call cognitive dissonance.
Okay.
And so the cognitive dissonance is a situation where the work activities that you're doing do not correspond with your actual beliefs, your wants, and what you actually want to do.
Right.
Do you understand? And so when you experience that dissonance, again, it comes back to losing happiness in the work that you do, and then becoming some people wake up in the morning to go to start jobs and they get panic attacks because they have to go.
Right.
When their work alarm sounds and they think of, for example, the traffic situation that they are going to have to go through in order to get to this job that is not even satisfying.
Yeah.
They lose all interest, right? And so they may have this kind of cognitive dissonance between what they are doing and what they actually want to do to get the satisfaction. And then that can also go into all these depression and all this anxiety and all these what we call I don't care attitude.
Yeah.
And people like that unconsciously do not market their jobs or their companies or their organization.
Yeah.
What we call unconscious marketing in business psychology is when you are marketing your organization not intentionally. But because you enjoy the job so much that
so you talk about it, randomly,
You talk about it in your conversations, you in your dressing, in your attitudes and everything. That's unconscious marketing.
Right.
And people who find themselves in this kind of situation don't engage in this kind of unconscious marketing. And believe you me, if you should calculate, the value of unconscious marketing to organizations, you will marvel when you compare it to conscious marketing.
Wow.
Right. Yes.
You can that possibly maybe we'll have the stats sometime, but there's a possibility that conscious marketing is a bit lesser. Is that it? Or
Well, no, I mean, unconscious marketing can, in some situations, yield better than conscious marketing.
right, okay. That's when
Yes.
you love that particular job you're doing.
When you love
Yes,
the job, you see, because
right.
the thing about unconscious marketing is that you're not aware you're doing it,
Yeah,
and so you do not tend to put any limit to how far you go
you
in
go
doing it,
in. Yeah,
because you're
that's
not
true.
even aware that you're doing it. But conscious marketing is the one that is regulated by organizational principles,
Yeah,
and that you may be working under a boss, and you might have been given a target, and
right.
so once you reach that target, you have that tendency that tendency to relax.
Absolutely
You know,
amazing.
because you
Right.
reach the target. But
Right.
unconscious marketing is that there is no limit on it, because you're doing it because you love it.
You
I
love
mean,
the job.
let me just make a little bit of an example for you.
Okay.
When you find people playing football on the local neighborhood pitch, where they are not playing for any team or they don't get paid or anything,
Yeah.
look at the passion with which they do it,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And compare it to some of the players who are given contracts to actually play formally for a team. You know, you will find that sometimes you stand beside the local pitch and the local neighborhood boys who are just playing football for fun, and the passion and the effort they are putting in it actually shocks you.
Yeah, that's true.
You understand?
That is true.
And so that's how unconscious marketing
can be
works.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much for also addressing that issue. Now, let's also talk about things that because clearly, when you're working to also give yourself that better life. You get paid. You need to give yourself that good life, your family and what have you. Get that leisure time, go out and what have you. But then there are some things that prevents you from getting this good life, right? So what are the things that you need to avoid to help you get there, and what are the things that you need to embrace and do more to prevent you from you actually finding yourself in such a situation?
All right. So if I understand you correctly, we're talking about what can you do and what must you not do in order to achieve a work-life balance.
A good work-life balance.
A good balance between your work and your life.
Absolutely.
Right. Great. You see, the complexity in this situation is that there is no one-size-fits-all approach where this is what you must definitely do in order to get a work-life balance, and this is what you must definitely avoid if you want a work-life balance.
Okay.
The best way to approach this kind of situation is to look at your peculiar situation, look at your peculiar environment, and look at your life. Do you understand? So there are some people who, because of certain things that have gone on in their lives, their works have actually become their life.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
Right. So it might be a divorce, it might be the death of a spouse, it might be anything that has happened in your life that has pushed you towards your work more.
So they are buried in work 24/7.
Yes. You see, so for such people, being on the job is actually work-life balance. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Because the other aspect of life is a no-no for them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You understand?
True.
But for other people who are struggling to balance or to achieve some kind of equilibrium between the work they do and the life that they want to lead. For example, attending social functions, going to PTA meetings, attending to your children, taking your wife or your partner on a holiday cruise, and those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Some people will define that one as life and separate it from work.
Right.
But if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs theory, right, if we should use that one for just an illustration, you would actually find that work is actually part of life.
Yeah.
Yes. Work is what actually helps you to obtain or to achieve the first three need levels on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So, for example, the basic needs, which is food, shelter, clothing, you will achieve that through the income you make from work.
Right.
Security, you will achieve that through the income you make from work.
True.
And sometimes even relationships, because the workplace is also a marriage market.
Exactly.
For people.
Exactly.
And so the work-life balance issue here becomes something that is a little bit complicated. What you can do, is to, again, look at what is a priority for you.
Okay.
Right? Family or work.
Right.
I know I've worked with some people before who have the opportunity to do extra hours at work to earn extra pay, but they decide to not do it. They decide to not do it because of their family situation.
Right.
Right. And so they want to spend more time with their children because they've not had time to spend anything with their children. And so they decide to make an opportunity cost and let the extra money from work go
right.
while they benefit another way by spending time with their
family.
children.
Right.
Right. There is somebody whose marriage is breaking down because the partner complains that the person is more married to their work than they are married to their partner. And so if you're somebody who finds yourself in this situation, you might want to sit down with your partner and begin to work out how much time you can spend at work and how much time. Sometimes, you see, the problems that we face in this life that bring us psychological problems with work-life balance actually doesn't have to do with work. It has to do with the kind of things we go through before we get to work and before we get home.
Right.
And so somebody's work is a regular 9-to-5 job. But they have to wake up at 4 a.m. to go through the traffic to get to work at 7 a.m. And when they close at 5 p.m., they have to go through 4 hours of traffic.
Before they
By
get
the time
home.
they get home, it's like 9 p.m. and they're already tired. They may not even be able to sit and have a word with their partner before they go to bed.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
And so if that is the case, there is little that the employee can do about it, but there is much that the employer can do about it.
Absolutely. Okay.
Yeah. And so when we do consultancies for organizations, what we do is to try to impress upon organizational leaders, the employers, to actually see that they actually have the power to give the employee a work-life balance, because the employee's powers may be limited.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I have worked for organizations before where we sat down with them and we arranged a situation where workers actually get to go and take the organization actually organizes transportation. Especially for single parents who live with their children, right? Because your child closes from school at 2 o'clock and you are closing from work at 5. And there's nobody at home to take care of the child if the child goes home, and the child cannot even get home on their own. So what the company did was that they actually organized a transport with one of the company's drivers. Where the employees who are interested actually sign up. And so the company driver goes to the schools
to pick up the
the
kids,
children, bring them to the workplace, where there's a special room or a hall,
a waiting place.
Yes, a waiting place where caregivers and everybody playground is there, and the children can actually spend time there. So when their parents close from work, they can then put them and enjoy the ride with the children.
Wow!
So from work to home.
Amazing. So making life easy for these employees, especially the single parent ones. Actually, I was actually coming to the issue of the employers, which was my next question, and then you delved straight into it. So you talked about it. The employers play a major part in making these work-life balance, go well for their employees. Sometimes you go home, you need to take some of the workload home because you're not done with the office. And then sometimes they tell you your job is on the line if we don't meet this target or you don't meet this task.
Yes.
Okay, what are some of the things that employers can do? You started by just giving an example of a company who does this amazing thing. Let's hear some of it as well so we can wrap up.
I mean, one of the reasons that make us, those of us who are in this line of work, one of the reasons that make us not label coronavirus, for example, as an all negative occurrence, is that I think for us, even though despite the tragedies that the pandemic has brought, it has helped us to actually get employers to understand the point we have been trying to make for decades.
Right.
Because the idea is that there were before the pandemic, there were certain kinds of jobs that employers could very easily allow employees to do it at home.
Exactly.
They were not allowing that. Okay, because they would always think about what if we need to supervise them, we need to be on them, we need to that and that and that and that. Now, when the pandemic came and it's forcing the employees to allow the employees to work at home, they're actually seeing that, well, the benefit is not so different from when they used to come to the office to do this kind of job.
Right.
So what employers can do is to reanalyze, do what is called job analysis.
Okay.
Okay, for every one of the job activities that has to be performed in the company, and find out those that can be performed outside the premises of the organization. Those
Right.
that can be performed online. Okay, those where the employee may have to come to the office, but not Monday to Friday, right? And then work out the work schedules, work out the supervision routines, so that the employee actually gets to understand that the employer cares about them.
Exactly.
And is willing to be flexible in order to help them live life as they work. Because you see, the problem is that a lot of our companies and our company leaders do not see the repercussions for the company when employees are psychologically unwell.
Yeah.
You see,
Yeah.
when an employee has to struggle so much to get the job done, sometimes they cut corners. And that can bring problems to the company. Sometimes they get overwhelmed. And that can lead them to make costly mistakes. At the end of the day, the HR department may do a performance evaluation and say that this person has made too many mistakes, and so we are firing
the person. It may not be their fault.
Exactly. But the industrial and organizational psychologists, because we are psychologists, do not look at the mistakes the person has made alone. We also go down to look at what might have caused this person to make these mistakes.
Absolutely.
Because their idea is that if you fire this person, it's going to cost you to employ again. And the new employee, if the person is coming to face the same situation that this person faced, you might be getting ready to employ again.
Another one,
because this person is also going to be sacked, right? And again, it's even actually a benefit if the employee makes the mistake and the mistake is a visible mistake that the company can see and sack.
Yeah.
Because some of the mistakes are not ones that are visible immediately. By the time you see it, it's actually taking the company down.
Right.
And so when you look at the current banking sector crisis that happened in Ghana, when you listen to the interviews that were conducted on air, when you look at the organizational leaders, a lot of the leaders of the organizations that were collapsed actually were shocked that their company was being collapsed. And a lot of them were actually going to court and mounting a lot of defense. But when the regulator actually lays the record in front of you, you begin to realize that a lot have gone wrong in the company.
Right.
These are mistakes that are not directly visible.
Yeah.
These are mistakes that have been seen too late.
Exactly.
You understand?
Right.
And so you need to take the psyche or the psychological health of your employee absolutely seriously.
Right. Thank you very much, Doctor. Trust me, I wished we had much time because this was very, very insightful and very, very, helpful, I believe, for our listeners out there. I mean, for someone who finds himself or herself in this particular situation, you realize that it would go a long way to solve some of the issues that they think it's someone who is actually behind it, or you just don't know what the problem is, but you look inside of you, you get to realize that it's actually a huge problem and it's actually a psychological issue. Thank you very much, Dr. Ernest Darkwah, for joining us, and we hope to establish future conversations with you regarding psychological effect, work-life balance, and organization and all of that. Thank you so much for joining us on the Africa Daily Show.
Yes, thank you very much, my brother, and thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Okay, very interesting. Let me bring in my colleagues right about now. Wow, and a wow. I was so amazed. First of all, let me frankly say, when he talked about, there are no formulas for work-life balance, what you need to do, what you don't need to do. Someone actually can have that work-life balance at their job. It's like, that is where for me it's comfortable. Forget about home or where. No, I just want to be there. On a normal circumstance, I wouldn't think about that. I would think you need to go home and spend some time with your family or possibly go elsewhere. But very good salient points made by Dr. Ernest Darkwah. He's an industrial and an organizational psychologist, also a lecturer at the University of Ghana. Let me hear my colleagues and their take on doctors' submissions. Let me start with Hafiz. Hafiz. I know the sigh comes with a lot of, surprising revelations, yeah?
Wow. I could listen to Dr. Ernest all day.
over and over
Yes,
again.
I could listen to him all day.
Right.
And right now, I envy his students.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
exciting
he's
just
made.
to
I
listen
mean,
to him.
like there's a whole lot of meat, right there.
Hopefully, we can get him back
Oh
soon.
yeah, I think so. I think we
Seriously.
need to. Maybe you,
It's,
you
it's,
want to recommend that to your boss. Maybe
it's
employ
an,
doctor too. Maybe,
Yeah,
but very interesting
there- there-
conversation.
there's so much we don't know. You don't know.
Oh yes.
And when you listen to people that actually know, the
Yeah.
experts, I mean,
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
reshapes the way you see
You
things
think,
and the
yes.
way you see things. Anyway, I mean, in between the idea of unconscious marketing to
Yeah.
listen to
Mm-hmm.
all that he had to do, and
Yeah.
you realize that you see it every time, but
You don't know. You don't take
you don't
notes.
even exactly know how to call it until
Exactly.
they actually bring your attention and you're, oh, okay.
This is it.
You've seen
This
it,
is what
but
you're doing.
I mean, amazing stuff.
Mm.
Also, you talking about how wanting to find out what exactly how you actually strike a good work-life
Work-life
balance. And he
balance,
tells
yes.
you that there's no
No clear formula.
tailor-made solutions. I mean, you just have to find what works for you. And that for me was a huge trigger because
Mm.
I mean I actually know a person that would close from work at 4,
Okay.
and then that's everything between that time, between that to getting home, just wasting time, just so he wouldn't have to go home and stay with his wife. That's how bad it is.
So he experiences that work-life balance outside of
Exactly.
his home.
He's actually happiest when he's outside the home.
Wow.
Yes. So he will do everything,
Everything.
possible
Mm.
to stay away from home. Now, I mean, he's mentioned everything concerning job satisfaction and everything. I don't want to go into all of
Right.
that.
Right.
But there's something, and when he said it, and interesting enough, I got some very interesting statistic on, job satisfaction and how much people are happy or unhappy about the jobs.
Right.
Now, listen to this. Now, a global poll conducted by Gallup
Mm-hmm.
has uncovered that out of the world's 1 billion full-time workers, only 15% of people are engaged at work. So that means we are talking about some 85% of people that hate their jobs.
5%.
Yes, globally.
But as Doc would say, you need that money.
Exactly.
You need that
So-
income.
So you have people that
85%.
yes.
Wow.
So you have people that wake up and they feel like their jobs are just like going through the motions. They act like zombies. Oh,
Yeah,
let me get this thing over with. And
Just follow the crowd
exactly. Let me just do this thing and get on
and
with
get
my
it
life.
over with. Yeah.
So it's not something he looks forward to. He doesn't like it to begin with.
I mean, Doc mentioned you get panic attacks
I
going.
heard one accountant say he's an accountant but he hates numbers. so
Right.
I mean, these things happen, and you wonder why they keep happening.
Mm.
And so just to add my little 2 cents on the matter, you see, there are times where, and it's a good thing you mentioned the employers bit.
Yeah.
How they also contribute to
Oh yeah.
having employees strike a very good work-life balance.
Exactly.
And and quite a lot is not talked about listening and communication at the workplace.
Mm.
Sometimes you come up with to the employer, you come up with a
A
suggestion.
suggestion. Yeah.
Yes, you want to bring up new ideas.
An idea.
Yes, and a lot of the time you are shut down.
Get
That is
thrown-
normal.
Thrown under the bus.
Exactly, you are shut down. Now, when you are shut down, a lot of the time, the default reaction for many people will be never to come up with any suggestion again.
Again. Right.
Yes, he'll be like, well, I'm not going to do it. So every day he comes out to work, he's just going to do whatever it is that is expected of him and not bring up any, no much, no fuss.
No. Yeah.
Just go on with it and be done with it.
Right.
And so you don't exactly get the best out of such an employee.
Mm.
There's also the situation of trust. Okay? Now, some organizations will talk about trust, or they trust you and everything. Only so, for instance, let's say you want to run an errand for the company, and just to get money for taxi for taxi or whatever to make these runs, you have 5 or 6 other departments that have to sign off on it.
Hmm.
Clearly, it says a lot of things. Definitely doesn't say trust. So these are all things that the employees would take note of.
Mm.
Now, yes, he made mention of how it is difficult and everything, but some would say, why don't you just get out of it if the job is not satisfying?
Exactly.
Yes, there are so many reasons. Lack of job opportunities.
How do you even
the
get
fear and
another job?
everything.
What
Exactly.
guarantees that you get another job?
But I think the biggest problem of all, moving away from a job or leaving a job, is the fact that is the fear of the unknown.
Yeah, you never know what's out there.
Well, we are told change is the only constant in life, but the
It-
fact is change is
It
scary.
is scary. Oh, very, very.
It's scary. I mean, so some people would just, resign themselves to the fact that, well, the devil,
It's better than the angels you don't know. Interesting one coming from Hafiz Gunu. Thank you very much. And that is still relating to work-life balance conversations that we've been having in this week, talking about health. And I mean, understanding it right in there is very, very important because it goes a long way to affect you. It's not just about the malaria, the fevers, and what have you, but psychological effects on and due to some of the everyday things we engage ourselves in is very, very important. And that is why we looking at these areas. Now, let me go to Epifania. Let me also take what she took. You have a basket full of.
It's just a few lines.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
All right, let's hear them. Let's hear them.
Okay, so I think one of the things I took from what he said was about the reason. I think your reason for working on somewhere or venturing into a certain field should top it off for me. Because if you don't have a passion for it, then it becomes a problem. A time will come when working conditions will get tough. And if it happens and you don't have an inner desire, a drive, which is your passion, now that makes it's easy for you to become an obedient worker, not a committed worker. But your passion keeps you committed even when the road gets rough. So I believe we should be very particular about why do I want to venture into this space? Why do I really want to hold on to this job?
Exactly.
Why do I like it so much? And the reasons we give ourselves should be substantive. Or probably I like it because of the people I work with, because my friends make me feel good, or my colleagues make me feel better, or because of the rapport I've built with my colleagues. Let's not forget, your colleagues could be changed anytime. What if they choose to stop the work? Then what then becomes your motivation for going to work? So we should actually find a personal reason for ourselves why we actually are doing what we're doing. Now, another thing that I took part is the no size fits all. You know, the one size doesn't fit all. It doesn't work everywhere.
Right.
I love the fact that find a working model. Which one can be done outside the office premise? Which one can be done in there?
Right.
Some people work better when there's no pressure around them. When there's nothing like an eagle eye or nothing like a
monitoring
CCTV.
every single thing they
then
do.
the minute you do that, they feel like, oh, I'm being watched, so I have to then put everything. Then they're already anxious, they're on edge. So then as much as they're not giving you their 100.
The very best.
They're just giving you enough to stay away from the bad books or from the wrong light. So you can find out, okay, fine, stay here, or you work from home, you work from here, you work from here.
Right.
Come in this time or do this. If it works for you, that is good. But that is based on trust. Very important.
Exactly.
If the employer doesn't trust the employee enough, they will not be able to let that happen.
Okay. Thank you, Epifania. Let's go to Mame. And let me hear what she's got to say. I mean, he made mention of a point about traffic and everything. And I saw you agreeing entirely to that. Right? I mean, you raised your hand like, that's your domain.
It's not like it's my domain, but I mean, we find ourselves living in a city where you're coming to work in the morning, you're stuck in traffic. You leave work, you're going back to the house,
face
you're
similar
stuck
situation.
in traffic.
Yes.
So, I mean, I don't know if you guys, I know Epi experience.
It's a tradition in
Epi
town.
lives in East Africa, so.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We'll get there. We'll get there.
But I mean, I took a lot of nuggets. One thing I'd just like to touch on briefly is he talked about how there's no formula for balancing work and life.
Exactly.
In as much as I agree, I think it all depends on the person. In a sense,
I think he made mention of that.
You could decide that I'm not going to let work interfere with my life unless you're trying to use one as an escape, which he mentioned.
Okay.
Where people do not want to deal with the situations at home, so they'll put their 100 in work.
Okay.
So I think, like I said, it will depend on the person. Because I remember a time where I used to work late on Fridays.
Okay.
And that was partly due to my PAT. So we entered a new year and I was like, no, there's no way I'm leaving this building late in this year.
And I think you made it happen.
And so that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's why
It depends on the
it
individual.
depends on the individual. You can say to yourself, I will not let work interfere with life no matter what.
Okay.
And I will not let my life interfere with my work no matter what.
Right.
And then by deciding you have to make sure you maximum 100% that you're sticking by the decision you have made.
Okay.
And I'm not saying you can make it work perfectly. I mean, there'll be a few hitches, there'll be a few glitches here and there.
Right.
There'll be a few interferences here and there.
Yeah.
But once you are sticking to the decision you have made, you can make it work.
Right. Thank you very much, Mami, for that submission. We don't really have much time because we had a lengthy conversation with Dr. Ernest Darkwah from the University of Ghana, an industrial and organizational psychologist. It seems Hafiz has
I have
a
a
whole lot
request.
more to
I have a request.
a request. Okay,
We
what
need
is
a-
it?
We need a part 2 of that.
I think, trust me, let's just, after the show, after we will definitely talk about that afterwards. But interesting, engagement, interactions with Dr. Ernest Darkwah, industrial and organizational psychologist. And trust me, that was very, very deep. You should check out the video. If you didn't catch it, it will be on our YouTube page, Africa Global Radio. Just subscribe and you'd get it. And of course,